Easy E Day. What the hell?
Yeah.
We got Shane Smith coming in. Who is Shane Smith?
He's the founder of Vice magazine.
That's right.
Vice. And they are promoting Vice. Their show on HBO premieres April 5th, and I've seen some of it. It's excellent.
There he is.
Hey, Shane, how are you, buddy?
That's the guy I've seen.
Welcome.
Nice.
I've seen you in some very weird places.
Holy shit, yeah. It's fucking great. I was blown away, man. Just like, it's like, with other shows that people go to faraway, dangerous places, you get this feeling of safety. Right. I don't know why, but you do. You get a feeling like, you know, you see somebody that you've seen on TV for a while, they go places, and you kind of know behind the cameras.
You feel like it's all on the up and up.
Something, yeah.
Like the authorities are all cool, everyone's in on it. Like, yeah, no problem.
But, wow, with yours?
Not so much.
No.
You
no
felt
advanced
like
planning, it feels like.
Yeah.
Just show up.
It feels like, a late-night beer run where, you know, anything could happen.
Yeah, and it usually does.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, what was the first place you went where it was like, hey, this will probably catch on?
The first big story I ever did was North Korea.
All right.
Which was 2007. And
is it a pain in the ass to get there?
Yeah, but it was a real pain in the ass. We had to go to Xinjiang, which is in northern China, and just wait. And then they have this weird North Korean bar there. And they're singing North Korean propaganda songs, and you're just sitting there going, I'm really tired, I just want to go to bed. And they're like, if you don't get up and sing and, like, get into it, like, they're not going to let you in.
Oh,
and so I'm up there, he's singing a Pong Young Sumni. I'm doing a pantomime, and I know this is radio, but... And then I went back to the hotel. They're like, okay, we're gonna get you at noon tomorrow. And like then 5:30 in the morning. Come, we have to go now, because they never tell you the right time. Everything's always the wrong time. And there was like 20 people trying to get in, and only 4 of us got in. And it was this big kerfuffle because they knew I was a journalist, but they kept saying, "Don't say you're a journalist," whatever. But I'm like, that's the North Koreans saying that. I'm a journalist, So we were real nervous the first time, and then we met these generals there at the one hotel you can stay at, and it's the one place you can do karaoke. And we got drunk with these generals, so we went back the second time, and then we were allowed to shoot.
Wait, when the first time you went in, so what do you go to the DMZ, or how do you say, okay, I want to go into North Korea?
You have to go to Xinjiang and apply in Xinjiang. At the time, you had to go in Xinjiang. You could only go in during the Arirang Games, which is the mass gymnastics, which is the largest stadium in the world, and they have 150,000 people doing, the human pixels,
that's pretty cool.
Clipboards and stuff, and they do the history of the Korean Revolution. And there was literally me and like 11 other people sitting there for 150,000 people doing the show. And so we had to wait in Shenyang and sort of bribe some people to get in. The second time, we were allowed to go in with visas.
It's scary though, because who is the filmmaking team from China that they liked or whatever? Like, they can just keep you.
Yeah.
It's like, to get you out, the U.S. would have to invade.
You don't leave now.
Yeah.
They could literally keep you there if you offend them.
Yeah, and so we were nervous about getting out. And then when we had put up a documentary, and then when we went back the second time, we were really nervous. And then this last time, they call us the Dirty Dozen. I have no idea why, but they're like, we know you guys, the Dirty Dozen. You're not coming back in here.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they won't let you in a third time?
No, they won't let me.
Well, what's your thoughts on North Korea? What were you surprised at when you got to see it finally?
I mean, it's like going back in a time machine.
That's what I hear.
It's like going back to like Soviet Russia or Maoist China, where it's just 100% cult of personality, sort of communist utopian society. And it's like a Disney experience for political science. But it definitely messes with your head, because every advertisement is for them, for Kim Jong Il, Kim Il Sung. Every room has them, like Big Brother, like 2 pictures. Every room, every person wears their picture, their little button above their heart. And when people are like, "Oh, are the tears real?" Of course they're fucking real. Like, I don't know if I'm allowed to.
Oh yeah.
Of course they're fucking real, because they've been told. It's like Jesus and Lincoln and I don't know, God died. Like that's what they've been told since they were kids. Why wouldn't they?
So they totally buy into it.
And there's no media, right? So they're just like, yeah, they are God, and North Korea is amazing, and everywhere else is shit.
You answered my question probably.
Yeah.
They seem happy.
Well, you don't meet. This is the thing. You don't meet a lot of real people. Everything is. You have secret police. You have guards and guides and translators, and everything's on a tour. This is why we wanted to go in a different way. In this last thing we did was because you can never actually meet people. In fact, I went to Siberia to meet real North Koreans because they have these slave labor camps in Siberia where they make little North Korean villages. And then they have slave labor there. Well, they have North Koreans, which is essentially slave. Wow. And they work in Siberia. And so we went to talk to some of them there. And that's the only way we could, ironically, talk to North Koreans was going to Siberia.
We can't get a bus trip together on this radio show. We can't get 2 buses to take us somewhere. And you get into fucking Siberia and North Korea.
Amazing.
It is amazing what you can do if you have people working for you and know what they're doing.
And you were responsible for Dennis Rodman going over there, right?
Yeah, we when we were over there, they take you to this place, Kim Il-sung's Palace of Treasures, and they say like, so it's every, the gift giving is a big thing there, and so like every state has given them like, oh, here's an ashtray or here's a whatever, And so they have these in this museum that's like 23 stories down into a mountain, and it's got trains and shit down in there. So like a train that Stalin gave them and stuff. Wow. So it would take you something like 2 years to see every one of the treasures if you spent 10 seconds on each treasure. Anyway, the centerpiece of this thing, there's 2 centerpieces. One is this room with Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-il. Wax statues, but like kind of shitty ones with like a fan blowing their hair, and people come, they go into the room and they literally fall down crying, like freaking out, like losing their mind. And I was going, oh my translator, what's going on? And they're like, oh well, they're so ecstatic to meet the leader. And I'm like, well, they're not meeting the leader. That's a wax. That's Madame Tussauds. Like, and he's like, no, they're meeting the leader. They're so, and so they would be overly emotional. That was the big one. And the other one was this sort of dais with this basketball. I'm again doing a pantomime. This basketball, which was like signed by Michael Jordan, right? And Madeleine Albright, the first sort of like, bi-party talks between America and North Korea after the Korea War and everything was Madeleine Albright. She brought this gift, this basketball signed by Michael Jordan. So they hate America, want to go to war with America, but the Chicago Bulls are like this sort of Texas Rangers. They're sort of like the greatest, most heroic, beautiful people on earth, and you're like, what the fuck? It doesn't make any sense.
But how many people get to see Chicago Bulls games over there? That's why I know. That's why it's so confusing.
I say Texas Rangers. I was trying to come up with like a mythical, but only good thing, the fantastic, thing. They're Batman and Robin, whatever they are. But nobody knows anything about them, and you don't see any games or anything. But Kim Jong-il had all of their games on tape. He has all these big theaters for himself. He's 8 big cinemas for himself. So he has all the games. So the Chicago Bulls and that basketball are kind of legendary in North Korea because you have to go to this palace of the fucking treasures to see, the thing. And the basketball is like the #1. So we're like, oh, we should send over the Bulls and, and see what happens. And, surprisingly, a lot of them, it was the old Bulls, like the B.J. Armstrong, Jordan,
The microwave. Oh, no, that was the fucking Pistons. Fuck.
Pippen.
Pippen,
there you go, yeah.
I'm trying to remember
and so not a lot of people wanted to go.
Jordan said no, huh?
Jordan said, well, we reached out to his people and they just never got back to us.
Okay.
Yeah, so then we sent them over, and we were hoping that we would get sort of unparalleled access, that we would see shit off the tour, because everyone gets the same tour. You go to the DMZ, you go to the House of the People, the Library of the People, the Thing of the People, everything of the people. And we wanted to see it, see if we could sort of game the system to see something new and to get something new and get a new documentary, and it worked.
Now, there was one of your Korea documentaries I saw where you're outside that place you just described, the museum, and you're filming, and they're telling you don't film, and the guy catches either you or the camera guy lying about the size of the memory card.
Yeah.
Like, what did you like? What was that? Like, you said, "Oh no, it's only 4 gigs." Or
well, what we did is we weren't allowed to shoot anything, so we were shooting on like Sony Cyber Shots, like the little point and shoot cameras.
Right.
We had like 8 gig cards in them, so we would just go, "Oh, I'm gonna take a picture,
take a still pic," and meanwhile, it's video.
And so you're not allowed to shoot there, and they caught us shooting, and then they said, "Oh, how big is your memory card?" And I said, "I don't know, 64 megs, I don't know." And they took it out. He said, "Why would you lie to me?
Oh,
this
shit.
is 8 gig." And then we were like, I don't know. I just bought it at the airport. I bought it in Dubai. They gave me too big of a memory card. I don't know, you know. And but yeah, they kept threatening us with crimes against the state.
That can't be good.
Yeah, you don't want crimes against the state in Korea.
No.
You're not getting off, no matter how good your lawyer is.
That's a tough one.
A little worse than a parking ticket, I would assume.
Oh, God damn. All right, and then, of course, the trips to Africa.
Yeah.
Unbelievable with the warlords and what, buck naked?
General Butt Naked, yeah.
Butt naked.
Joshua.
Yeah. Butt naked. How do you even begin to try to find these people and how to get access to them? I mean, it seems impossible.
Well, it started out as a magazine article in our magazine, Vice magazine, and it was General Butt Naked and the Two-Pack Army, because they had stolen a container ship, and in one of the containers were all these Two-Pack Shakur T-shirts, and so they used it as a uniform for an army. And so for us that's a perfect story, because it's culturally weird and everything. And then we're like, well, who are they fighting again? Oh, they were fighting these dudes who fought naked because they thought bullets couldn't kill them. You know, we're like, wait a minute, what, they fucking fought naked? And so they had this General Butt Naked, and we were like, oh well, we liked him. Actually, we met a bunch of generals, and they all have these crazy names. Like there's General Mosquito, and they're all afraid of him because mosquitoes bring malaria, right? So there's General Mosquito, and then the general who fought him was General Mosquito Spray.
Are you shitting me? They really had a General Mosquito Spray.
And there was General Rambo who we met. He was awesome. And then there was General Bin Laden, and there was two actual General Bin Ladens, but they take on these names. And General Butt Naked's thing, and when you first meet him, you're kind of like, you're sort of like, oh, this guy did like the worst things.
Oh, ever. Horrid atrocities.
And he'll tell you about them. He's like, before we would fight, we would get an innocent child, open up the kid's back with a machete, take out the heart, and while the heart's still sort of thumping, we'd eat it, and then we'd take off our clothes and go into battle, and where we couldn't be killed. And you're like, what happens when the first guy gets shot?
Yeah.
You know. And they're like, well, because it was part of, he's from the Crown tribe and he was brought up as a I don't know, a medicine man or shaman or whatever. So that's what they were doing. But he was sort of bringing it forward from that. But they did some crazy. But the other thing that I got a lot of shit for when the UN got mad at me, everyone got mad at me, is everyone was talking about cannibalism. Like everybody I talked to, everybody's like, yeah, it was either ritual cannibalism or we were starving, so we were eating. We were people who, would cut up people when we'd eat them, and Butt Naked tells a story about like he's on the bus and like they went to get a stick of meat and he ate it and he goes, oh, that's human. He knew. And he, by the way, he knew it was human because it's got he ate a lot of it.
That's familiar taste.
And so I'm like, okay, so I put it in my piece and like, well, you shouldn't be talking about cannibalism. You're like, they're eating the fuck out of people.
Why wouldn't you?
Why the fuck wouldn't I fucking talk about that?
Why was what was the problem with you talking about it? They just want to cover up shit like that?
People they're like, oh, we're trying to, we're trying to get tourism trade
boost tourism, right?
And you're like, well, rampant cannibalism. Like there was some stat where it was like 60% of the population or something.
Wow.
It's not an isolated case.
What do you think is the biggest problem there? Why it's so ravaged with poverty, disease, warlords?
That's the really interesting thing about it is, we went there because of this Two-Pack and Butt Naked and all the different warlords. And then we find out, it was founded by America. It was bought by America. Liberia, freed slaves. And Monrovia is named after President Monroe, and the Constitution was written here. And what's interesting is the freed slaves went back to Africa and then promptly enslaved the locals based on the system they had learned here in America.
Hey, that's a great idea.
And so all the rulers have like names like Charles Taylor or Johns Hopkins or whatever it is, until Samuel K. Doe came to power, who was the first native Liberian, and then that started the Civil War, the first of three that just killed like the country. But it's completely corrupt. America was funding one or other of the sides. It was a civil war for like 20 years, and in a civil war, like everyone's just you kill my dad, I'm going to kill your brother, and everybody's killing everybody.
Yeah, didn't work out well for President Doe, did it?
No, it didn't.
Oh,
no, he got eaten in the president.
Oh,
he got
Yeah, he got eaten.
I saw the video where they cut his ear off.
Yeah, they eat him, yeah.
And
actually, the guy who cuts his ear off in that video, Prince Johnson, is a senator right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. This is the president of the country, and he's crying. He's like, okay, Prince, I'll talk. He's saying, I'll talk.
He'll say, I'll talk,
he was ready to talk.
What do you mean you're going to talk?
Right.
Like,
Prince is drinking a beer.
Yeah.
I don't care what you say.
Prince is drinking a bud, yeah.
And in an army outfit, it just looked like, wow, this is not a guy up for a negotiation. It's horrifying.
It's one of those fucking Reservoir Dogs scene. I don't care what you know or don't know. I'm going to torture you.
Yeah. Anyway.
That doesn't matter, yeah.
What kind of vibe did, or as a person, like you pick up people's energy, did Butt Naked have? Because you said something very interesting towards the end of the piece about how you were feeling about him.
Yeah, I mean, so Liberia's, where we were going in Liberia is, we're sort of very dangerous places, and I think you see it in some of the places. Like it's very poor, like it's incredibly poor, and I have a soft spot for kids. So like kids come up and you're like, and if you change like $10, they give you like a suitcase full of money. So you're giving them like 5-cent notes and stuff, and then the sad thing happens is like the bigger kids come and take the money from the little kids, and then the teenagers come and take, and then the guys with the guns show up, and you're like, oh fuck, I just wanted to give the kids money or anything. Like I bought them Cokes one day when not Cokes, whatever, some sort of soda in a plastic bag, and then the same thing happened. Like the bigger fish come.
It's a little microcosm of the whole country.
Everywhere you go, you're just immediately surrounded, and people are like yelling at you and wow, money.
Does it feel menacing?
Totally menacing.
Oh,
yeah.
Fuck, dumb question, wasn't it?
Yeah, totally menacing. And we've been in West Point, and we is one of the worst slums in West Africa, and they're just like, what the fuck are you doing here? We don't want you, you fucking asshole, And
what prevents them from just ripping your head off and taking everything?
Nothing. And that's what we finally realized. So I gotta say,
shit.
But when we were with Butt Naked, people knew who he was. They know he's still got his guys. Like I'll get back to that, but later. But anyway. All of a sudden we were shit scared all the time, and then you're with him, you're like, I'm not so fucking scared. And he's like, hey, we'll dress up for church. You dress up in the white suit, and everybody's like hugging you, and all of a sudden it's like you went from being shit scared all the time to feeling like, and he's preaching, and he's a great preacher, and you go and all of a sudden you're going, this guy, he's not so bad, and then as he was preaching one day, and I was like getting into it, and people are singing, and I'm having a good time. I'm like, this guy used to kill and eat people. This guy kill, and he admitted 20,000 people. It's not like 4 people,
right.
And you're like, holy fuck, I have Stockholm syndrome. Like I'm a fucking, this is weird because he's a charming guy. He's a leader of men, so he's obviously he can speak well. He's a charming guy. Now he's an evangelist preacher. And the big question is he doing that to get out of war crimes, or is he doing that because he believes in it? I don't know. I don't know the answer, but I find it weird anyway. Like, oh fuck, I killed and ate 20,000 people. I'm Ted Bundy. Yeah, but now I'm fucking a bishop. Because in the born again church, and then it's fine. You don't have to go.
How did you sleep? That's just the basic shit that you got to do as a human being. You're in this crazy place, and you got to close your eyes eventually.
It's a funny thing because there's no grid, there's no power grid in Monrovia,
right. So
it's like there's no electricity and there's no real nice place. The only place the Lebanese sort of run the town, the Lebanese mafia.
Right.
It's like, so there's this one Lebanese hotel that you can sort of stay at.
So you felt like you were safe for the night.
Well, they're armed to shit.
Right.
Like yeah. But there was a funny thing, like, when we left West Point that night, we're in the car, we shot it. And
is that the brothel or no?
Yeah, we're in the brothel, and they all wanted heroin. We're like, no, we just want to shoot you talking about West Point. And then they're like, we want money. And then all of a sudden, when they started screaming money, like the whole brothel just came in. And we're like, okay, run. That was just the stupidest thing in the world. Because like, where? Because there's no roads. It's just where? It's like a rabbit warren of like corrugated iron
in the dark.
In the dark. And so you're like running in. This is me doing pantomime. You're like running into walls, and you're just. And by the way, like we're the only white people there. We're we have cameras.
You're
and
glowing.
Fucking, exactly.
It's like 5 light bulbs running through the fucking dark.
Exactly. And like everyone's tripping and running. And so finally we get in the car, and the car is surrounded, and our Liberian driver and security freaks out. Like he's just like terrified. So he just guns it, and he nearly drives all these people, and we're like trying to calm him down, because, and then we say it like if you hit somebody and do something, you're surrounded by like 1,000 people. That was just going to rip you apart.
Done.
So it's tense and tense and tense and tense. And we get out, and we're going to go back to this hotel, and we're like, General Butt Naked and his posse are at your hotel waiting for you. And you're like, they've heard about you, and they want to meet you before, you know, and you're like, oh, I don't know which is worse, because from what we've heard about this guy. And so we went to the he made us get him rooms at the hotel. It's like $15. And then that night, when you say, how do you sleep? We went to bed, and there's like him and his guys in the same hotel. And you're like, I don't know why they're here. I don't know, and by the way, people were trying to kill him the whole time we were there.
Really?
God, you're nuts. Yeah. You're nuts.
So,
he's still a big mark, right?
He's a big mark because he killed a lot of people. So, because if you kill a lot of people, then those relatives,
right? A lot of relatives.
And this is what General Rambo says in the documentary. He's like, look, we're people of war. All we know is war. Now there's 70% unemployment, right? So you have all these guys who the only food and power and whatever they ever had was when they were at war. All they know is war. Now they have no jobs. They're starving.
Mm-hmm.
They all have guns buried in the jungle. Like, I kept asking, why wouldn't they fight? Why wouldn't you fight?
Yeah.
If you're fucking starving and you have guns and you know how to do it and you've been a soldier since you were 11, why wouldn't you do it? And he's like, look, we're children of war. We are just waiting for it to come up again. We're going to start again.
What happened now? The UN's in there?
The UN's in there, yeah.
Yeah, so, but they're going to pull out eventually?
Yeah.
And what's your prediction, having been there?
Well, when we were there, it's already started. They've already made incursions into Equatorial Guinea, Sierra Leone, all the neighboring countries that have had lots of problems with coups and things, and they're all Liberian sort of mercenaries. So it's already happening. I mean, the region is sort of very unstable, and because of the continuing sort of.
Are there any lights at the end of the tunnel for that whole?
Well, the problem
area?
with most of these countries, and the only country more fucked up than Liberia is Congo, and the reason why is that they have mineral wealth, right? And so if there's some stat, if you have oil or mineral wealth, that the chances of a civil war are 2 in 3, whereas if you don't, it's 1 in 50. So what's happening there is Congo, which supplies the majority of coltan, which is like for phones.
Is it metal?
Yeah, it's like a rare earth metal. We need them, so like every smartphone needs it. Like
used on circuit boards and whatnot inside.
And so this has caused a continual civil war. I think it's actually now the 6th bloodiest war in history, but no one talks about it because it's all about this coltan. It's the same thing in Liberia. So what's happening? I mean, what has to happen? We just did a piece on the oil in Nigeria. Holy Jesus! And the pirates, the oil pirates. Have you seen this shit? They hack into they either steal barges or they hack into the pipeline, and then they have these refineries that they do, like they look like moonshine stills, but they're like oil, and they like 5 billion barrels, and they're siphoning it off and selling it all over West Africa, like because they turn it into gasoline and shit. It's crazy. Anyway, the thing is unless they get a hold on their sort of natural resources and sort of share the wealth and sort of with the people, because generally 8 people take all the money and then everybody else is fucked.
Yeah.
Then I don't see that it's going to get any better, because there's the 8 people get it, and then 8 other guys say, you know what, we want their money, and then they get their army together.
Because I've heard plenty of stories of how all the resources, they get raped by the West and everything. But I mean, there are plenty of places that have resources and have figured out how to make it profitable for the country and build a viable society.
Well, Africa's. Have you heard of Executive Solutions? No, it was Margaret Thatcher's son. So he was a guy who had this company, and he was the ex prime minister, first woman prime minister of England's son, and their thing was they would go in with South African mercenary. If you needed to go in anywhere and you needed resource wealth, they would go in, organize the coup, put in the puppet. And there you have. They got caught actually in Zimbabwe by Mugabe, because he's like, no, we're not going to let this happen anymore. I'm no fan of Mugabe, but you got to say, I mean, having these dudes just drop in, kill everybody, and say, it's like Dogs of War. That's what they were doing.
Yeah.
And
that was a great movie.
And based on these kinds of companies.
Oh yeah.
And so look, there's a long tradition, a long history of sort of destabilizing and then going in and taking the stuff. I mean, if you look at Nigeria, Nigeria is unbelievably wealthy country. But,
I know. They keep trying to send me $10 million. But I just got to send them some money to get it.
Yeah.
But I'm
but
waiting
if you
for
look
it.
at the oil, like completely corrupt, like so corrupt. I mean, everyone's stealing it, and like the thing is too. But I was like stealing oil. Like they're stealing like 50 million barrels.
It's crazy.
You can't sell it. Like on the street,
Here's a barrel of oil. What are you gonna do?
So they do sell some. They refine some and they sell it as gas, but a lot of it they just sell back to like Shell and stuff. And you're like,
wow, selling their own shit back.
Yeah, and so you're like, oh, it's so corrupt. And when you get into it, this farmer just won this case, and we talked to him. And when you go to his like where they live, it's just completely covered in oil tar. and when we went out into the jungles, there's just flaming, columns like hundreds of feet into the air, and just smoke and shit. And it looks like you ever see that popcorn Willis with the old moonshiner, and he could make a moonshine rig out of anything. That's what these guys are doing. They're literally making moonshine gas.
A refinery.
Yeah, and they'll pop.
Out
they'll pop a hole into the pipeline, and then they'll just have hoses and shit and flames and everything going out.
You occasionally do hear of explosions on, especially natural gas lines or gasoline, refined gasoline lines in some of these countries, and they try to tap into these things, and you hear like 20 people were just incinerated when a pipeline blew up.
Well, they have this smoke that comes out as a byproduct. It's the steam. And they're like, at any given second, the whole steam can catch on fire.
Wow.
And you're engulfed in the steam, so you're like, I'm going to get the hell out of the steam.
You could just be in the air is on fire, pretty much.
The air is on fire.
Wow. You see these places, but aren't you amazed that people actually, like, this is their life day in and day out? Like, you guys go for however long you go and see this hell, but that's somebody's fucking existence.
Shit Beach was unbelievably disgusting.
And it doesn't even come across because... you see the shit on the beach, but there's a whole thing that looks like a mountain of garbage. That's all shit.
Oh my
like that's all shit.
I don't know what Shit Beach is.
Explain what you saw there on Shit
Lake
Beach.
Liberia.
So in Monrovia, the toughest part of town, the worst part of town is called West Point. And West Point, actually, anywhere else would be like Miami Beach. It's on a nice, beautiful beach.
Right.
And so it's a really hardcore slum, and they don't have a toilet facility, so everyone just goes and shits on the beach. So the beach is just, like, the whole beach is just covered in shit. Like, and it's, like, it reeks, like,
it's gotta be horrid.
But it's really sad because you sort of walk up there, and, like, kids are just walking onto this big mountain of shit, taking a shit, picking up like a piece of garbage or something, and then just wiping their ass with a piece of garbage. And you're like, that's why it's a tragedy. Wow. It's like that, and then you see that, and you're just like, what the fuck? I always have the same. Where are all the adults? Like what? All this aid going to Africa, all this stuff, all these things we're doing, and you're like, we have Shit Beach. Like it's like
that's just being all that. I guess a lot of that aid is just being intercepted by warlords and whatnot. Those 8 people that get all the money. And,
exactly.
Wow, it just doesn't seem to be a solution. It's amazing.
Yeah. It definitely, you come back, and to answer your question, I've had a lot of kicks at the can in life. I've had a lot of second chances. Thank you. And you go to somewhere like Liberia, and you realize, they don't get a kick at the can. There is no kick at the can. Like, maybe I'm going to do a TV show. Like, they don't. No, that's not part of the option. And when you go to Afghanistan or a lot of these countries, there's no kick at the can. And then you realize, wow. I was saying this the other day. I was saying, like, America is problematic, but still you can come here and make your own shit happen. You can do your own shit. You can make something. You can work hard and get ahead in life and all that stuff. And in a lot of these countries, it's like you don't get a kick at the can.
So you said it earlier about the kids. That would drive me nuts. Seeing kids that have
that's my particular.
There's no fucking hope whatsoever. So what's the best these kids could hope for in their lives? That's it, right?
Just to
get to
survival. Yeah. Wow. And that's the heartbreaker. That's my Achilles heel is kids, because you see the kids and you're just like, fuck.
With no hope whatsoever for anything.
Just survival, like
substance.
And that's when you start, with money, like, $5 is a 5 kilo bag of rice, and so instead of giving Cokes and shit away. I was trying to buy rice and, give rice to the kids and give rice to them. But then it's just the big eat fish, eat the little fish and stuff. And you're just like, every time you go to these places, and it's just tiny little amounts of money, and the kids are so, like, the funny thing about it too is I have two rules. One is the more you need a toilet, then the worse the toilet will be in direct proportion. So if you're in, for example, if you really have to shit in Liberia, which you do because you have parasites, you have to go to Shit Beach because there are no toilets.
So did you shit on Shit Beach?
No. I couldn't bring myself. I can't describe to you what Shit Beach is. It's literally a mountain of shit that's rotting in the sun. So it's worse.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, you're terrified of malaria and everything else.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And by the way, you're terrified of other things, which it turns out not to be paranoia, because I came back from there with like helmet-headed parasites living in my bowels and all.
That's what I was going to ask you about next. Like, 'cause at one point, what were you walking through that swampy shit with no shoes on?
Barefoot.
Well, that's the thing. You go over there and they're like, don't do this. Don't go to any still water areas. Don't do this. Don't go anywhere. And there's like these worms that can go in, and there's things that can do, and there's obviously malaria, which is really bad, and there's this and there's that. And then Butt Naked goes, we meet him, and he's like, oh, I'm going to take you out. I'll show you. And he literally takes us to a swamp with like swamp, just African jungle swamp with like tepid, fetid, stinking, rotten water. And he's like, take off your shoes and socks and get in.
No.
And that's when I say, as I'm walking, I'm like, this is where all fear stems from, because you've just heard every warning in the book, and you're literally going to the place where it all comes from.
Why barefoot, though? Why didn't you just keep the shoes on?
Because he said take your shoes off and roll, and then afterwards he's like, you know what, you're the only person I brought here who got in the water, and I didn't have to carry, so now you're my boy, and blah 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 blah.
Jesus,
it's like some sort of rite of passage, but you're like, as you're doing it, you're like,
what the fuck's in the water?
There's a worm going up my ass.
Because I've seen those, like the monsters inside you things, and it's like he came back from a trip, and there's literally a monster living in you.
Do you have parasites?
Yeah, so I had this hernia, and I had to get an operation. And then when I came back, I went to a tropical disease doctor, and he's like, "Oh, you're not getting an operation. You've got helmet-headed, flesh-eating parasites living in your bowels that will perforate your bowels if you move the hernia onto it." So they were big fuckers. They were and stuck in there.
How big?
Well, they were like, big.
Was that like 4 inches? 5
Yeah. I keep doing pantomime.
Wait, you had 4-inch things?
Yeah, with like, like kind of
Holy
fangies.
I thought it was microscopic shit.
No. And so I had to take these serious, like drugs to get rid of them. They came in one bottle, and there was 2 of them in one bottle, and they're like, don't exceed that dosage. Like, that's one full dose. And they gave me 5 bottles. And I'm like, this isn't good.
Wait, you had to drink this, whatever?
No, so it's a prescription bottle. Right,
but only 2 pills.
But there's only 2 pills in it, and that's all you're allowed to take. Like, that's it. And they gave me 5 bottles.
5 bottles of 2 pills.
Yeah, of 2 pills, and you're like, shit, dude.
So you couldn't have your hernia operation because you had this fucking claw-headed monster dug into your bowels. Yeah. So what happened when you move the hernia?
Well, they were saying, like, when you move the hernia to like fix it, when you shove it back in, if it pushes on the bowels, the flesh eater could perforate the bowel.
How many did you have in you?
I had 2 big ones, and then I had another.
How the fuck do they get in there?
Well, that's what I don't know. I think it's Afghanistan.
But do they start a lot smaller and they were growing in there?
Yeah.
It's got to be.
And they just continue to grow.
Ooh, yeah.
Holy fuck, man. And did you know they were in there?
No.
No clue, right?
No, the guy said, they're
no
parasites.
Pains or anything like that?
Well, you have lots of weird shit, but I'm used to that. But
right.
they say, like, they want to host. They want to live, so they don't want you to know that they're in there. That's so the symptoms are very sort of.
So they try not to make a big fucking to-do out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Quiet, no parties.
And just eating, like we're used to eating here, and you assume everything's kind of inspected, and there's a recall E. coli food and stuff. Try to do that, but I would assume everything over there is like out of Indiana Jones, where it's just a fucking beetle guts on a leaf.
It's a problem. Eating is a problem. Drinking is a real problem.
Yeah,
drinking is a real problem, and especially in the in the Muslim world, because it's like a thing. You have to. For example, in Afghanistan, they say, whatever you do, don't drink the green tea. Whatever you do not drink the green tea. And then you go and like we were interviewing the Taliban and shit, and they're like, "Here's the green tea."
Oh, man!
And if you say no, thank you, I don't want that.
You're fucked.
It's an insult and fuck you and all this thing.
There you are in front of that flag.
So you're sitting
on your
there
knees.
like, yeah, exactly. And you're like, oh, I got to drink the green goddamn tea. And there's a lot of places like that when we were shooting in.
How
Sudan.
bad was it? Was it as bad as they said?
Well, I don't know. That's what I think. Maybe the shit comes from there. Like, who knows where it comes from? But no, the green tea.
No, what do you mean?
Bad.
Nothing happened to you, like explosive diarrhea or anything?
Yeah.
You had it all.
Yeah.
I think that's what he was getting at.
Yeah.
Where's your passport from?
Canada.
Your Canadian passport?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that easier than an American passport would be? Or Yeah, somehow Canadians, it's like, yeah, come on, you're all right, you're Canadian.
We're like Americans' kid brothers.
Right. Yeah,
he's
his older brother's a dick, but he's an all right
cool,
sort.
What was the worst thing you ate because you were hungry and you just knew you couldn't hold out anymore?
I mean, street meat.
Yeah, we've heard about street meat over the years.
Street meat. Street meat's
that could be
always
anything.
stupid. I mean, generally you try to stick to like cereal bars. There was one time we were in southern Sudan, and there was like a camp, a UN camp actually. We went to this UN camp, and we hadn't been eating, and we were really hungry, so we were like, oh, we're gonna eat at the UN. It's like MASH 4077.
Yeah.
And so we went in and I got like cereal and I put milk on the cereal, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have real cereal with milk. And I took one bite, and the milk was like, when like a chicken goes bad, and there's that liquid blood and chicken juice at the bottom of the sort of package there. That's what I'm about to barf just thinking about. But that's what the milk tastes like. I don't know what had happened, but it was like rotten chicken juice.
Spoiled milk.
Yeah.
And I was just barfing and like, get it out of me, like, no. And you're like, that was pretty bad.
That's disgusting.
Really bad.
And you said, interestingly enough, the worst place you were in danger. Because to me, the craziest thing you did, aside from was fucking Juarez, Mexico. Like, there's nowhere I would be more afraid of than Juarez, Mexico.
Yeah. Well, because in most places, like in North Korea, they'll get you and there'll be some sort of trial, and there'll be lots of yelling and lawyers and things, and Bill Clinton, no, don't kill my baby, and in Iran, same kind of thing. In Afghanistan, in reality, they're going to trade you for somebody. Like, there's always a thing. In Mexico, they all make their money by smuggling drugs. They're all smugglers, right? So any camera is bad camera. So they don't ask. They don't say, hey, let's negotiate. They don't give you a piece of paper. They don't say, let's yell at each other for a while. They just shoot you. And, a button man, I believe they're called Centenario, Centenario, they're $200 a week. So you can just get, like, I don't know, 200 of them and just say, I have 200 assassins now working for me. And so the murder rate in Juarez, so it's not only, it was the most dangerous city in the world for journalists. Now it's the most dangerous city in the world. It's way more dangerous than Afghanistan, way more dangerous than Iraq. During the wars.
Holy shit.
There's been more people killed in the drug wars than in Iraq and Afghanistan combined, on the American side. And so when you go there, it's completely run by the drug lords. And when you drive to where we were, in the areas that we were, they're sort of murder highways, and if they see any camera or anybody, and everyone's kind of an informant, so everyone knows where you are at all times. And by the way, it cost me, 75 cents a bullet to get you. And so people are always like, oh, where's the scariest place? Where's it? And you're like, Mexico. And like, I've been to fucking Cancun on spring break. I went to Joe's Tuna Barge and Boom Boom Room. Like, Joe's Tequila Barge, probably not a tuna barge.
No.
But if you go to Juarez, they're fighting it out. They're like, and the Zetas are like killing everybody.
Weren't they almost? They're big gang. Weren't they like mostly ex-cops and fucking military?
So they were
guys
trained. They were trained by the DEA. They were trained. The Zetas initially were trained by the DEA to be anti-narco dudes, and then they hired themselves out to be bodyguards to the Gulf Cartel, and then they said, why are we being we can just be the cartel.
Let's do it ourselves.
And so they then just started killing everybody. And because they were sort of better killers than everybody, they became the sort of predominant cartel. So they're trying to move in to Juarez, and they're having this big war.
Who runs Juarez now? It's the what's his name? Chapo?
Master Blaster.
There's El Chapo.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, if you leave Juarez and go south, there's a huge mountain with a big, like, 50-story horse on the mountain, like in white rocks they put on, and that's the symbol of the cartel right there, like 50 stories high. So there's Chapo, there's the Zetas, there's the Juarez cartel, there's three main groups, and they're all fighting. I believe there's another cartel coming out of Chihuahua now. Chihuahua is another very dangerous city in Sinaloa. So. It's
Isn't there enough for everybody?
Yeah. Well, they all live. The irony is
Jesus.
they all live in El Paso because El Paso is the safest city in America. So all the heads of the cartels live in El Paso.
Wow.
And then in Juarez, it's just a fucking.
Oh, so there's cartel heads living in the States.
El Paso, yeah.
Except for the guy who's in El Chapo's in the mountains, right? They don't know where he
El
is.
Chapo, they don't know where he is. The guys that we were sort of. I guess close to or worried about was El Requin. And he was this guy who we went down there because we heard this story about the Mormons were fighting the cartels, right? And which they are, and there's the LeBaron clan, and they live in colonial LeBaron, and this guy El Requin lived literally 7 miles down the road and had one of the hardest cartels. He's actually famous because he went into a drug rehab center and massacred everyone in the rehab center. He killed 18 people.
Rehab centers, they take away from business.
Exactly.
You don't want rehab.
Yeah, so he killed everyone in the rehab. This guy, El Requin, really bad dude.
Oh, yeah.
And he kidnapped one of the LeBaron kids. And then the LeBarons went to war, and they armed themselves and, got him back, which is very rare.
Wow, I bet.
Yeah.
Who knew there was a Mormon Mexican drug cartel war going on?
Yeah. Well, and actually, the LeBarons live in colonial LeBaron, and right across from that is where the Romneys live. And Mitt Romney's dad was born in colonial Dublin, which is a big, at the time, a big polygamist community, a Mormon community, and so they're sort of tied together.
I guess they've been missionaries for years. They would just go down there and spread the word.
No. The reason why they went down there initially was when the Mormons lost their war with America, they had to outlaw polygamy. And so a bunch of Mormons went down to Mexico and said, no, we're going to keep doing it because that's the way you
Boy, that's really dedication to fucking a lot of women.
So they went down, so they went to Mexico. Well, because the fundamentalist Mormons believe that's the way to get to heaven is the more wives you have.
I'm starting to realize I was so lucky to be born on Long Island. Oh, thank you. I love my mom.
Yeah.
My dad.
That's great.
It's fucked up.
Yeah.
It's a lottery.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. You
We're
don't know
so fucking lucky.
Very lucky.
Where are you going to end up? What do you got planned, future one?
Well, so we have a lot of stuff coming out. It's actually usually on Vice. We put it up right away. We shoot it. We cut it up. So we get this sort of immediate sort of a glorification to our megalomania. But we've been actually sitting on all the best stuff we've ever done for this HBO show, which premieres on the 5th of April, Friday night.
At 11 o'clock.
At 11 o'clock.
Week from Friday, yeah.
And so all of the best stuff I believe we've ever done, we've been sort of holding on to for the past year, is about to launch. And the North Korea stuff is just a small part of that. We have some crazy shit, and we hope people.
I've seen some of it in the. I went to the offices, and I don't know if you're saying what the topics of the story you're covering are, but there was a couple of fucking really, really good ones. I only saw like 2 or 3 of the stories. It was fucking amazing.
Yeah, so the child suicide bombers of the Taliban is like we have the only footage I know of in the world of these kids who were caught, some as young as 6, who were caught trying to be suicide bombers, and we have we talked to the Taliban about why they're using the children, and then we have footage of actual suicide bombings and stuff. It's heavy business. We also have in the Philippines, to speak of another sort of American influenced weirdness. We sort of set up the Constitution and the government system in the Philippines, and also their right to bear arms, and it's kind of like America on steroids, right? And they have this thing there now, this problem where everybody has guns, and the politicians are sort of like really contentious, like the political party. So they have these assassins, they who assassinate the other politicians, so they don't have an incumbent, so they can run against them. And so we follow these political things. But what happens now is that they have these because there's so many assassinations. They have young kids because they're young. They assassinate. They don't get tried as adults. A. And B, they make their own guns. They have these backyard gunsmithing places where they make them from like scrap metal and stuff, so they're untraceable and everything. And then they go out and then they go on these assassination things.
Wow, man.
So anyways, we have so many. We have actually, speaking of North Korea, we follow defectors from North Korea all the way, like how they have to get out go all the way through China and down into Laos and then into Thailand. What else we have? We have North Korea proper. We have the world's most dangerous border, Kashmir, where we, I believe, again, have some of the only footage in the world of the zero line, which is now India and Pakistan are, situations are heating up. And
none too friendly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have some crazy footage from the Taliban there. Actually, we meet the father of the Taliban, Hamid Gul, who has some pretty insane things to say.
How the fuck did you get access to him?
Well, you have to go there. I mean, that's the thing.
That's usually the
first. You got to get over there.
It's the important part.
Start asking
and
some
actually,
questions.
while we were there, it was the whole thing. The whole thing in Pakistan happened with Malala, the young girl who was shot in by the Taliban, and so they got so much bad press that generally the Taliban, they say anyone who's police or military will kill. But they said now journalists, especially Western journalists, we're going to have as targets. So when we were there, we're like, oh shit, that's not good. And then they said, the State Department said, go to the Serena Hotel, go to the Serena Hotel. And all the journalists from the Serena Hotel, then they're like, no, get out of the Serena Hotel, because then they had chatter that there was a target. So we actually just dressed in local gear and went way up into Northwest Frontier Province into the Taliban-controlled areas and just sort of hung out and started shooting and met a bunch of people there. And then one of the guys was Hamid Gul, who set up the Taliban. And now is advocating to nuke India. And
how did you get him to agree to talk to you? Like,
but he wants to talk. They want to talk. They believe that he's a politician.
That really is an odd thing about pretty much every documentary I've watched of yours. The people want to talk.
Sure.
It's like
they want to tell their story.
You don't have to pull teeth with these. No. They love telling their stories.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, like, he's going on. I said, so you're the father of the Taliban and you supported the jihadists and everything. He's like, I won't do his accent, but he's like, but of course I loved Osama bin Laden. He was a very intelligent man. He was the darling of the CIA. Intelligence oozed out of his eyes. He's doing this sort of oozing and he's gushing over Osama bin Laden. And you realize, there's a lot of people out there that think he's a great guy. and really, when you're doing the interview, you're like, oh yeah. Like, just because it's ingrained in your brain.
Right.
This is like a bad dude who the world's most wanted man for the longest time. This guy's talking about him like, yeah, he's like Superman.
Fantastic.
Do you ever like, not vehemently or violently disagree with these guys, but when you're talking to these guys, they say something so outrageous like that, do you give your point, or do you kind of just say, look, it's safer to agree with them, or do they like to have a spirited talk?
I get in shit for giving my point too often, because I don't believe you can be an objective journalist. I don't think, like you were saying, I don't think you can come from Long Island and say I got a nice mom and all this stuff, and then go to Africa and be like, I'm just going to be completely objective about this now, about shit beach. I just not going to.
Right.
There is shit on the beach, and I'm not going to say if that's good or bad. I just don't believe you can do that as a human being. Mm-hmm. So I am subjective. We call it immersionism, where we immerse ourselves in the story. We just press record and let the story tell itself.
Right. Yeah.
And so, yes, I am a little bit too vocal, and sometimes it's not good. I do get into it. I got into it a little bit with the Taliban, and that's not smart.
No.
But
Not even through email is that smart.
Yeah. But there's sometimes you obviously you do have to curtail you can't say in North Korea, hey, you guys are bull goose loony, you're fucking because otherwise it's
talk about their leader and
well, it's a fascinating site, man, and I really
love it.
Vice's documentaries are amazing, and the HBO footage I saw. was tremendous.
Yeah,
the child suicide bombers was fucking chilling. When they go through a lot of the explanations of how they get them to do it and what they tell them, and it was really, really upsetting.
Fascinating stuff, and it's done in a way that isn't it isn't this polished kind of let's kind of script something look at these places and what's going on. It's very gritty, raw, and honest. I really enjoyed them.
Every Vice segment ends with we knew it was time to get the fuck out of there.
Exactly.
That's how everyone. It's a hurry camera and people running for their lives to a fucking car with the steering wheel on the right. Fucking horrifying.
Fucking great, man.
April 5th at 11 o'clock on HBO. What I've seen was and it's Shane Smith 30 on Twitter, but I could listen to you all day, man.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I'm a big fan. Love Opie and Anthony.
That's
and
great.
A big fan.
Very cool, man.
That was a great hour of radio, man. Holy fuck. Amazing.
Yeah, love it.
Come back and see us, all right?
We're done for the day?
Yeah, Shane Smith 30 on Twitter.
Yep.
Yes.
I have one plug.
Oh, Jimmy, what do you got? Where
Memorial Day weekend, I'm at the Stress Factory. Tickets are on sale now. I forgot to mention it. 732-545. Ha ha.
Nice. See you tomorrow.
Yeah.
The Opie and Anthony show is pretty much over.
It's like a Disney experience for political science. But it definitely messes with your head because every advertisement is for them. For Kim Jong Il, Kim Il Sung. Every room has them, like Big Brother, like 2 pictures. Every room, every person wears their picture, their little button above their heart. And when people are like, "Oh, are the tears real?" Of course they're fucking real. Like, I don't know if I'm allowed to.
Oh yeah.
Of course they're fucking real because they've been told. It's like Jesus and Lincoln and I don't know, God died. Like that's what they've been told since they were kids. Why wouldn't they?
So they totally buy into it.
And there's no media, right? So they're just like, yeah, they are God, and North Korea is amazing, and everywhere else is shit.
You answered my question probably.
Yeah.
They seem happy.
Well, you don't meet. This is the thing. You don't meet a lot of real people. Everything is. You have secret police. You have guards and guides and translators, and everything's on a tour. This is why we wanted to go in a different way. In this last thing we did was because you can never actually meet people. In fact, I went to Siberia to meet real North Koreans because they have these slave labor camps in Siberia where they make little North Korean villages. And then they have slave labor there. Well, they have North Koreans, which is essentially slave. Wow. And they work in Siberia. And so we went to talk to some of them there. And that's the only way we could, ironically, talk to North Koreans was going to Siberia.
We can't get a bus trip together on this radio show. We can't get 2 buses to take us somewhere. And you get into fucking Siberia and North Korea.
Amazing.
It is amazing what you can do if you have people working for you and know what they're doing.
And you were responsible for Dennis Rodman going over there, right?
Yeah, we when we were over there, they take you to this place, Kim Il Sung's Palace of Treasures, and they say like, so it's every, the gift giving is a big thing there, and so like every state has given them like, oh, here's an ashtray or here's a whatever, and so we're like, oh, we should send over the bowls and and see what happens, and surprisingly, a lot of them, it was the old Bulls, like the B.J. Armstrong,
right, sure.
and Jordan,
the microwave. Oh no, that was the fucking Pistons. Fuck.
Pippen.
Pippen. There you go. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember.
And so not a lot of people wanted to go.
Jordan said no, huh?
Jordan said, well, we reached out to his people and they just never got back to us. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So then we sent them over, and we were hoping that. We would get sort of unparalleled access, that we would see shit off the tour, because everyone gets the same tour. You go to the DMZ, you go to the House of the People, the Library of the People, the Thing of the People, everything of the people. And we wanted to see it, see if we could sort of game the system to see something new and to get something new and get a new documentary, and it worked.
Now, there was one of the Korea documentaries I saw where you're outside that place you just described, the museum, and you're filming. Yeah. And they're telling you don't film, and the guy catches either you or the camera guy lying about the size of the memory card. Like, what did you like? What was that? Like, you said, "Oh no, it's only 4 gigs." Or something?
Well, what we did is we weren't allowed to shoot anything, so we were shooting on like Sony Cyber Shots, like the little point and shoot cameras.
Right.
But we had like 8 gig cards in them, so we would just go, "Oh, I'm gonna take a picture,
take a still pic," and meanwhile, it's video.
And so you're not allowed to shoot there, and they caught us shooting, and then they said, "Oh, how big is your memory card?" And I said, "I don't know, 64 megs, I don't know. And he took it out. He said, "Why would you lie to me?
Oh,
this is 8 gig." And then we were like, I don't know. I just bought it at the airport. I bought it in Dubai. They gave me too big of a memory card. I don't know, you know. And but yeah, they kept threatening us with crimes against the state.
That can't be good.
Yeah, you don't want crimes against the state in Korea.
No,
you're not getting off, no matter how good your lawyer is.
That's a tough,
because they never tell you the right time. Everything's always the wrong time. And there was like 20 people trying to get in, and only 4 of us got in, and it was this big kerfuffle because they knew I was a journalist, but they kept saying, "Don't say you're a journalist," whatever. But I'm like, that's the North Koreans saying that. You know I'm a journalist, you know. So we were real nervous the first time, and then we met these generals there at the one hotel you can stay at, and it's the one place you can do karaoke. And we got drunk with these generals, so we went back the second time, and then we were allowed to shoot.
Wait, when the first time you went in, so what do you go to the DMZ, or how do you say, okay, I want to go into North Korea?
You have to go to Shenyang and apply in Shenyang. At the time, you had to go in Shenyang. You could only go in during the Arirang Games, which is the mass gymnastics, which is the largest stadium in the world, and they have 150,000 people doing, you know, the human pixels,
yeah,
you know,
that's
the
pretty cool.
clipboards and stuff. And they do the history of the Korean Revolution. And there was literally me and like 11 other people sitting there for 150,000 people doing the show. And but yeah, so we had to wait in Shenyang and sort of bribe some people to get in. The second time, we were allowed to go in with visas.
It's scary though, because like, who is the filmmaking team from China that they liked or whatever? Like, they can just keep you.
Yeah.
It's like, to get you out, the U.S. would have to invade.
You don't leave now.
Yeah.
They could literally keep you there if you offend them.
Yeah, and so we were nervous about getting out. And then when we had put up a documentary, and then when we went back the second time, we were really nervous. And then this last time, they call us the Dirty Dozen. I have no idea why, but they're like, "Oh, we know you guys, the Dirty Dozen. You're not coming back in here."
Wow.
Yeah.
So they won't let you in a third time?
No, they won't let me.
Well, what's your thoughts on North Korea? What were you surprised at when you got to see it finally?
I mean, it's like going back in a time machine.
That's what I hear.
It's like going back to like Soviet Russia or Maoist China, where it's just 100% cult of personality, sort of communist utopian society. And you get
Easy-E Day. What the hell? Yeah. We got Shane Smith coming in. Who is Shane Smith?
He's the founder of Vice magazine.
That's right.
Vice.
And they are promoting Vice. Their show on HBO premieres April 5th, and I've seen some of it. It's excellent.
There he is.
Hey, Shane, how are you, buddy?
That's the guy I've seen.
Welcome.
Nice.
I've seen you in some very weird places.
Holy shit, yeah. It's fucking great. I was blown away, man. Just like, it's like, with other shows that people go to faraway, dangerous places, you get this feeling of safety. Right. I don't know why, but you do. You get a feeling like, you know, you see somebody that you've seen on TV for a while, they go places, and you kind of know behind the cameras.
You feel like it's all on the up and up.
Something, yeah.
Like the authorities are all cool, everyone's in on it. Like, yeah, no problem.
But, wow, with yours?
Not so much.
No. You know, advanced planning, it feels like. Let's just show up.
It feels like, a late-night beer run where, you know, anything could happen.
Yeah, and it usually does.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, what was the first place you went where it was like, hey, this will probably catch on?
The first big story I ever did was North Korea.
All right.
Which was 2007. And
is it a pain in the ass to get there?
Yeah, but it was a real pain in the ass. We had to go to Shenyang, which is in northern China, and just wait. And then they have this weird North Korean bar there. And they're singing North Korean propaganda songs, and you're just sitting there going, "I'm really tired. I just want to go to bed." And they're like, "If you don't get up and sing and like get into it, like they're not going to let you in." And so I'm up there singing a Pangyong Sumni. I'm doing a pantomime, and I know this is radio, but and then I went back to the hotel. They're like, "Okay, we're gonna get you at noon tomorrow." And like then 5:30 in the morning. Come, we have to go now. You know, so they have these in this museum that's like 23 stories down into a mountain, and it's got trains and shit down in there. So like a train that Stalin gave them and stuff. Wow. So it would take you something like 2 years to see every one of the treasures if you spent 10 seconds on each treasure. Anyway, the centerpiece of this thing, there's two centerpieces. One is this room with Kim Il Sung and Kim Jong Il wax statues, but like kind of shitty ones with like a fan blowing their hair, and people come, they go into the room and they literally fall down crying, like freaking out, like losing their mind. And I was going, oh my translator, what's going on? And they're like, oh well, they're so ecstatic to meet the leader. And I'm like, well, they're not meeting the leader. That's a wax. That's Madame Tussauds. Like, and he's like, no, they're meeting the leader. They're so, and so they would be overly emotional. That was the big one. And the other one was this sort of dais with this basketball. I'm again doing a pantomime. This is this basketball which was like signed by Michael Jordan, right? And Madeleine Albright, the first sort of like, you know, bi-party talks between America and North Korea after the Korea War and everything was Madeleine Albright. She brought this gift, this basketball signed by Michael Jordan. So they hate America, want to go to war with America, but the Chicago Bulls are like this sort of Texas Rangers. They're sort of like the greatest, most heroic, beautiful people on earth, and you're like, what the fuck? It doesn't make any sense.
But how many people get to see Chicago Bulls games over there? That's why I know. That's why it's
that's
so
why
confusing.
I say Texas Rangers. I was trying to come up with like a mythical, but only good thing, fantastic, thing. They're Batman and Robin, whatever they are. But nobody knows anything about them, and you don't see any games or anything. But Kim Jong-il had all of their games on tape. He has all these big theaters for himself. He's 8 big cinemas for himself. So he has all of the games. So the Chicago Bulls and that basketball are kind of legendary in North Korea because you have to go to this palace of the fucking treasures to see, the thing. And the basketball is like the number one.